YouTube, Instagram, and other social media platforms are full of content from influencers, from polyglot influencers talking about their language learning journey. I consider myself polyglot-ish, emphasis on the ish, in that I have gained the ability to read stuff in some foreign languages. In fact, I could read most of what I find online, but I do not feel confident enough that I actually could speak the language or hold a conversation or watch a TV show without subtitles. My written skills are better than my oral skills. Nevertheless, I would like to talk about my journey in this video. The disclaimer is that I am a working man. I have a day job, and thus this is why my videos are not super polished, because I do not have the time to make them all highly polished. I just speak from my heart. Anyway, let's get to it. My journey starts when I was working as an electrician for long hours. Between work and stuff at the church that the electric company was associated with, I had no free time. We'd start our days at 7 in the morning and not get back until 10 or 11 at night. However, there was one thing I had: commute time. The commute from our shop to a job site was a half hour to an hour one way. And the church also often assigned me to food pickup duty to ride shotgun, so we'd have an hour commute one way. Thus, I used that time for my language learning. In the morning, I would go onto iTunes, download language learning podcasts, put them on my iPod, and then I'd listen to them on the road. In one episode of the podcast, Showtime Spanish, which is an intermediate level Spanish podcast, Mark and Alba talk about tips for people learning two languages at once when they have their Spanish conversation. And one was separate the place where you learn languages. Say, learn one in the garden, another in the office. And so I adjusted. I'd listen to a podcast for one language on the way to the job site or to the pickup, and then listen to a different language on the way back. I would also buy various books I'd see at Barnes & Noble. There was a Barnes & Noble near one of the stores that donated food for the church. So between that, I noticed I gained the ability to read most of what I encounter in French and Spanish. But eventually, I got laid off from that job, stopped going to that church, went to college, and I also learned a little Arabic. I don't consider myself fluent, and I'm a little rusty due to lack of practice, but that was really the only time I actually took a course when I was in college. But I did also take a Spanish translation course and a French translation course, and did well, and even offered to even before I went to college, offered to translate a few blogs. But after college, I ended up going to work where I would do some language stuff on my breaks or while I was waiting for a ride. And then I eventually got a Fulbright ETA to go to Cyprus. And so while I was there, I'd take the bus to get around. And during the commute around Larnaca, when I take the bus around Larnaca going to and from work, which was about a half an hour commute, I would work on my Greek. And when I take a bus to and from Nicosia, I'd work on my Turkish, because I almost always crossed the Green Line to the north when I was in Nicosia, and they speak Turkish in the north. My progress was slow, but when I got back to the States, I found I could read a lot of what I encountered in modern Greek. And what I did was mostly listen to podcasts on the commute, and sometimes when I was going for a stroll along Finicudis, which is a palm tree lined promenade in Larnaca along the Mediterranean, or continuing the walk along Scala, which is the old Turkish neighborhood south of Finicudis and south of the medieval fort. I would listen to a language learning podcast on my phone. But I also would, on the highway, do reading material. But when I was in town, in the city, because of the stop and go, that gave me motion sickness, so I'd focus on listening. I tried various things. I listened to all the hot tips from polyglots, but what I personally found is just finding a podcast or course and following it is what really helped me out. Or maybe do some supplementary material. So, thank you for listening and have a good rest of your day. And I plan on making more content about language learning as well. If there's anything you would like to hear, please leave it in the comments and like and subscribe. Talk to you later.